Today's story is about an operations director who was so proud of his new time tracking policy that he never once considered what would happen when the data started pointing back at him. Our narrator worked at a mid-sized logistics warehouse, the kind of place where hourly workers pack and ship orders all day. For years, time tracking had been simple: clock in, clock out, done. That changed when a new operations director joined from a much larger company and decided the warehouse was bleeding efficiency. He called an all-staff meeting and announced a new policy. Every employee now had to log every single task in a time tracking app, broken down to the minute. No exceptions, no rounding, no lumping tasks together. Packing an order, walking to a shelf, waiting for a forklift, everything got its own entry with a start time and end time. He said this wasn't optional and wasn't up for debate. The data would show exactly where the company's time was going, and anyone who didn't log accurately would be considered falsifying company records. Our narrator and everyone else on the floor did exactly that. Every single minute logged exactly as instructed. Time spent packing, time spent walking, time spent waiting for a supervisor to approve a shipment, time spent waiting for a forklift that was broken for 4 days, time spent standing in the loading bay because the delivery schedule the director himself had just redesigned created a bottleneck every morning at 9 a.m. Time spent in a mandatory safety meeting that ran 40 extra minutes because the director showed up late. All of it logged minute by minute, exactly the way he demanded. A month later, the director pulled the time tracking data to present to the CFO, expecting it to justify cutting headcount by showing how much wasted time the workers were racking up. Instead, the report showed something very different. The single largest category of log time across the entire floor wasn't breaks or slow packing or anything the employees controlled. It was waiting on approval and waiting on equipment, two categories that traced directly back to decisions the director himself had made in his first month. A new approval workflow that required his personal sign-off on shipments over a certain size, and a maintenance contract he'd switched to cut costs, which was now taking 4 times as long to fix broken equipment. The CFO asked, in front of the whole leadership team, why nearly 11% of total floor hours over the past month were logged as waiting on a single approval step. The director tried to explain it away, said the data was probably being logged inaccurately, workers exaggerating their wait times to look busy. But that argument fell apart fast because the policy he'd written himself explicitly stated that any employee caught logging inaccurate or exaggerated time would face disciplinary action, and he made a point of saying management would be reviewing the logs personally for exactly that kind of padding. If the data was wrong, under his own policy, that was on him for not catching it. If the data was right, it was on his workflow changes. There was no version of the conversation where the numbers were someone else's fault. Our narrator wasn't trying to get anyone in trouble. Nobody exaggerated a single entry. They just logged their day exactly the way they were told to, in the format they were told to use, at the level of detail they were told was mandatory. The bottleneck had always been there, quietly absorbed and unmeasured, until someone with a clipboard and a strict new rule decided he wanted to see everything in writing. Within 3 weeks, the approval workflow was quietly rolled back to the old system. The maintenance contract was switched again, and the director stopped mentioning efficiency in meetings altogether. He never apologized, and he never explicitly admitted the data had exposed his own decisions. But he also never asked anyone to log their time down to the minute again. That's the part of malicious compliance that never gets old. You don't have to fight the rule or argue with the person who made it, or even say a single critical word. You just do exactly what they ask with complete accuracy and let the truth they demanded speak for itself. If you got a story like this, drop in the comments. We might feature it in a future video. And if you want more stories like this one, make sure you're subscribed because we got a new one coming tomorrow.